Leadership shouldn't be just a go with it kind of experience. In order to get the most out of your leadership, whatever it is that you're doing or whatever in whatever organization or capacity you're leading, you should use strategy when you're leading in order to get the most of it and also to make the most of your organization and do the best for your employees, for yourself, and for the organization. It doesn't just happen by chance success. I mean, sometimes you might see scenarios where it might seem like it does, but it doesn't typically happen just by chance. You have to learn to make good decisions in order to be successful. Consider some of the things that a leader is responsible for. Monitoring internal and external environments. This might include internal, meaning your employees, your resources, your product, also external environment. So what's outside of your environment, your markets, your competition. Building up your team's resources, always improving that, trying to build what you have as far as physical resources as well as know-how as well as people that you know, which might be the most valuable resource you have. Tracking competition and trends that are going on in your area, finding new markets. A good example of this would be Patagonia. Patagonia is a well-known brand, has a very good reputation, but they found a market that they weren't tapping into, and that was people who didn't buy things brand new. And so they began a couple of years ago, I think, selling worn wear, and that's used Patagonia gear because they were tapping into a new market. That's the job of a leader, is to find new markets that you can provide something for or tap into in some way. Figuring out what the threats are to your business, and also figuring out what your vision is. What's the big picture for your organization or for your company or whatever it is that you're working in, and being the one then that projects that vision upon the people that you lead. That's the job of a leader. A lot of this would be clear in a SWOT analysis. I don't know if you haven't heard the term before, I'll explain it. It's usually written out as SWOT. The S would stand for strengths, W weaknesses, O opportunities, and T threats. You would do a SWOT analysis, and that would cover a lot of this stuff. Analyzing all those different things, what they might be for your business. So there's a lot of things there, and there are far more that we didn't cover that are things that leaders are needing to be overseeing that can make a very big difference in the organization. And so when you consider all those things, strategic leadership would mean planning and making very careful decisions, not just going with the flow or making the easiest decision, but making sure that your decision is going to lead to the result that you want or that you plan on. And strategy often fails, and there are four main reasons why. Number one would be that the leader was putting their personal interest before the company, and that might mean that they weren't spending enough time with their company, spending too much time at home. It might mean that they did things for themselves that hurt the company. It can also be unethical practices. This can be unhealthy promotions. It can also this can include as well things that might be illegal. Paying attention to the quality of their product or service. It doesn't matter how great your team is or how well organized you are or how friendly you are together. If the product that you're selling or the service that you're selling isn't good, that's what people see, and that's what they're paying for, is your product or your service. So even if you all have the best intentions, but your product isn't great, you're not going to be able to make it anywhere. So that's a big one right there. And so if you aren't paying attention to that and you're only focused on the things on the inside, then you're going to lose. Your strategy is failing. And then last but not least, money or time are not used wisely. Take Krispy Kreme, for example. Very successful donut chain, and then they overexpanded. They misused their money and then failed. And there are only a few branches now in existence at all. That's how that is. But versus Starbucks, who manages to do the same thing but in a responsible way. It might look different on different companies, and so you can't say that there's any one way to be successful when it comes to managing money and time. But if you don't do it right for your company and your situation, it can, and this is probably the most common reason why strategy fails. But all of them are totally, they absolutely could take out a company. It's just going to depend on the situation. This is what we would do in classes. Figure out which one, in your opinion, really leads to failure most often. I expressed my opinion, but there isn't really a right or wrong answer to that. Another thing about strategy is choosing the right leadership style. Earlier in the semester, we talked about the 3 things that make up a leadership style, and they're right here, these top 3. Leader, so you, your experience, your knowledge, your comfort level. The group, so the people that you're overseeing, their knowledge, their experience, their comfort level. And then the situation. Are you inside? Are you outside? What happened before this event? What's going to happen afterwards? All those things have to be taken into consideration to create your style. And so all these things listed below here would really just fall into what the leader is, what the group is, and what the situation is. You can choose your leadership style, and it should change every time you're around different people. And even as you work with individuals, your leadership will change because your relationship with them will change, and they will change and learn and grow, and so will you. So you're never done picking out a leadership style. It's always going to change depending on the needs of the moment. All right, the main thing that a leader does is kind of we talked about it earlier, the vision, the overall purpose of an organization, and then bring that into reality. First, you have to kind of figure out where you're at. It's your environment, your internal environment, and your external environment, and that's important. But the next steps are really what make a company what it is. But let's start with analyzing the environment. First, consider what the needs of your community are, your customers, competitors. Watch what they're doing, the economy, any policies from the government that might make a difference for you internally. What resources do you have? Skills that are available, the group dynamics. Take all that into consideration when it comes to analyzing your environment so you can create then a vision. So first you create a vision statement. This is kind of the inspiration of your organization. Why do you exist in the first place? This is what's going to remind people why they work, where they work. It should be based on your values, what inspires you, and what you hope to do in the future. It's usually very broad, a vision statement, not usually very long because it is a vision, but it's not specific to your organization. It's just a vision. Like, for example, we want to help kids. That's a pretty that's an exaggerated broad vision statement, but it should be like that, not specific. Then you take your mission statement, or your vision statement, and create your mission statement, which is going to take your vision statement but make it specific to your organization. So the vision statement I mentioned, helping kids. Now we're going to say, this agency is going to help kids by doing this. By offering late night basketball to keep them off the streets, things like that. It would be making your organization then fulfilling that mission, or that vision. So it's kind of like a step down. So you've got the vision statement, which is a more broad mission statement, which is then specific to your organization, but fulfilling the vision statement. And should be more detailed, but these aren't action items. This is just the bigger picture of how your organization is going to meet the vision statement. The goals are the action items. So you take your mission statement and say, okay, we're going to help kids by providing basketball, but how are we actually going to do that? And then you break it down, actual goals that have to be done in order to get that. We need to reserve basketball courts. We need to, whatever. I don't really love the example that I'm giving here, but that's how it works. So you establish goals, and then last but not least, you create a strategy to make those goals happen. What actual steps are you going to take? Who's going to do what? When is it going to happen? Implement it, and then last but not least, evaluate to make sure that you did well. And if you didn't, change things. And if you did great, do it all over again.